It's a very, very high margin business that, like, once you've built the tech, what's called the marginal cost, right? So like once I've built my product, the marginal cost is close to zero.
Right.
That's a very unique type of business because almost every single business on earth doesn't work like that.
Do you think it's important as a startup to be profitable kind of from the beginning or at all, or do you focus more on growth? How do you think about that? And then the second question I'll ask you about Yobs is, how do you guys, like, what's your primary source of new customers? How do you find them? Is it through paid media? Is it through referrals? Do you do cold outreach to specific businesses? How does that work?
Yeah, both good questions. I think as far as like being profitable versus focusing on growth, for me, there's just like two fundamentally different like types of businesses. On the one hand, you have sort of like the venture-backed businesses or sort of like tech companies like ours, where it's a very, very high margin business that, like, once you've built the tech, what's called the marginal cost, right? So like once I've built my product, the marginal cost is close to zero.
Right.
That's a very unique type of business because almost every single business on earth doesn't work like that. It's like I build a car, right? Building the second car might be a little cheaper because now I have, maybe a factory already or whatever. I have some fixed costs that are going to amortize, whatever. But fundamentally, building the other car is still going to cost me roughly as much. And my margins are not going to be as high. So when you think about like tech businesses, most tech businesses have like 80, 90% gross margins. There are businesses that are fundamentally very, very profitable. So venture capitalists and angel investors love to invest in those businesses because they know that, like, hey, these can be like potentially massive. But the mindset that I have when I'm running my fund, and most VC investors think the same, is I expect 90% of my startups to die. I hope 100% of them are successful, but just statistically, 80, 90% of them are going to die, right? So the 10% that do well, they need to be like really, really big. They need to be like a 10x return on the money that I make, on the money that I invested. And so that just completely fucks up your judgment in terms of like the type of business that you look for, the type of business that you invest in. And so it's just like, that's why that's such a different business from like a brick and mortar, like, or e-commerce business where there's a reality of like, you're not going to raise money from investors and like you have to be profitable from day one, or at least think about being profitable in the near future. So for me, there's two different types of businesses. And fundamentally, like, you cannot lie to yourself. You have to ask yourself honestly, like, what am I trying to build? Because depending on what you're trying to build, it's two very, very different strategies that you have to adopt. And at Yobs, like, we're the former, where we're like that venture-backed business where short-term profitability would actually hurt our long-term prospects and sort of like our ability to grab market share and really win in the marketplace.
Right.
And then to your second question, what's worked the best for us? So, we've tried a lot of different things. We've tried outbound sales. We've tried paid media. We've tried some PR. We have some amazing people like Adam Grant that we brought on board, who's like one of our scientific advisors, and is sort of like, helping us also like, spread the word. I think all of that can work. It really depends on your business. I think fundamentally the work that we had to do first, that we didn't want to do at the beginning, or maybe we were too lazy or too busy, it doesn't matter, is you really, really need to like nail product market fit. And that's true for really any business, and for startups especially, because like you can invest like $50,000 a month on like, salespeople, paid marketing, etc. But until we really, really refined what's called our ideal customer profile, so head of talent at like a company that's hiring remotely or has a distributed workforce of a certain size in specific countries, like, until we really, really refine this, and then we also like really refine how they think, like, what do they care about? Do they care about bias? Do they care about efficiency? Do they care about like the emotional appeal of the product? And then everything else, all of the voice, all of the messaging, all of the copy that you're going to write on your website, the content that you put out, the partners that you bring in, the celebrities that you're going to pay endorsements for, all of that needs to fit around that ideal customer profile and that ideal message. So I call it like our marketing Bible, right? It's like, and until we had built that Bible, like the exact same channels would perform at like a third of the performance as they do now. So I think like you have to do that hard, annoying work first of like, what is my story and like, what does it resonate? And like, you clearly, for example, like have that story that resonates, like you have that product market fit, right? Like with your story, with your narrative.
Yep.
And like, you just have to find that to otherwise you can use the same channels as you or me, and it will work like at 10% of performance.